Hi, it's Andryanna. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Juggle is Real podcast, where we are talking about leading a rapidly growing mission based business, raising kids and pets, and cultivating a marriage with Jacqueline Prehogan, who is the Chief Brand Officer and co founder of Open Farm, which is a premium and ethically sourced pet food brand where she leads the mission and impact programs and guides strategic brand direction. Jacqueline's also the CEO and founder of Canada Pooch, which is a leading pet lifestyle brand that designs premium functional gear for pets and their parents. And in this role, Jacqueline drives the company's strategic direction with a focus on brand and innovation strategy. She's so passionate about the environment and animal welfare, and she has made a point to refine industry standards around sustainability. Jacqueline has led the impact programs at Open Farm since its founding and more recently instituted major industry leading environmental programs such as its science based targets commitment, zero waste to landfill program, and ambitious regenerative agriculture goals. A recognized entrepreneur and leader in the pet industry, Jacqueline has been awarded the Ernst & Young Emerging Entrepreneur of the Year Award in 2015, the Pet Age Women of Influence Award in 2021, and the Pet Age Power 50 Award in 2022. Jacqueline is also a mom of three very young children, ages 4, 2, and only a few weeks old. She also has a senior pug and a puppy Bernedoodle, and she is here to chat with us about all of the things that she is managing and how she is doing it and what she is not doing so that she can prioritize all of the things that are most important to her. This is a beautiful conversation with a successful and incredible founder. Let's dive right in. Hey, I'm Andryanna Gonco, and this is the Juggle is Real podcast. As I share my ongoing journey from experiencing burnout to leading a more mindful and intentional life with better balance, I hope you feel seen, that you realize your worth, lighten your load, and prioritize your own needs. As we hear from leading experts and well-known faces in the wellness, entrepreneurship, education, and motherhood space, I hope you gain insights, proven practices, and learn actionable tools to help you enjoy the juggle of work, family, and everything in between with a little less stress and a lot more ease, joy, and fun. Most of all, I hope you find what you need to simplify, streamline, and supercharge your own journey of better balance and self-love. Are you with me? Let's get started. Before we get into today's episode, let me share a recent review that just came in on Amazon for the Juggle is Real Authentic Self-Care Planner. Ashley writes, so relatable, get this guide. From the beginning, I felt as though she was talking about me, and there's comfort in reading something so relatable. I'm already hooked and I'm just getting started. Thank you so much for sharing, Ashley. And if you haven't heard about the Juggle is Real Authentic Self-Care Planner yet, it's a 3-month guided journal that supports you in setting your intentions for the month by committing to yourself in small ways using 5 well-being pillars. And every day you recommit to yourself by choosing what will serve you best, by reaffirming your why, and by reminding yourself why you are worthy of the care that you invest in yourself. It's sprinkled with short stories and advice for juggling all the things. This self-care planner is an absolute lifeline for making the shift to a life with less stress, but more ease and better balance overall. Be sure to get your copy of the Juggle is Real Authentic Self-Care Planner now. It's available on Amazon, or head to the notes for this podcast episode to get the link. It makes a beautiful gift for all the busy women and new mamas in your life as well. Now let's get back to the episode. Jacqueline, welcome to the Juggle is Real podcast. I'm so thrilled that you could spend some time with us. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
It's so great to be able to meet such incredible people who are doing such wonderful things and who truly are juggling it all. We heard about all of the wonderful things that you're doing specifically with your businesses, but you're also a mama. You've got 3 beautiful children. You have a couple of dogs as well. I would just love to know a little bit about you and who you are.
Sure. So yes, I can start with the personal side. So I have three kids. I'm married, and my youngest one is a baby. She's almost 11 weeks. And we actually call me completely insane. We had three dogs, but we lost two in the last year. So we just got a puppy a week ago, an 8-week-old puppy as well. So now we're back up to two dogs. And yeah, I've been an entrepreneur for almost 13 years. I had a background in accounting and, started my first business in 2011. Just had always like a lifelong love of dogs and animals and wanted to pursue that passion. So I started my first business called Canada Pooch, which is more, apparel and accessories, gear for dogs. And then a few years later, started Open Farm, which is a premium and ethically sourced pet food company.
That's so cool. We have one dog right now, but we used to have two. And my first baby was my dog, right? And so I think so many of us can relate to really just wanting the absolute best for our fur babies and wanting to know exactly what is going into their food. And there's a lot out there that's, in terms of like, this is what you should feed, this is what you shouldn't. You go to the vet, they say one thing, and there's things on their shelves, and you go to the pet food store, there's so much around. But there's not always a lot of information to back up what the claims are. So was that sort of your position when you started your business with your husband, or where were you when you were like, okay, we've got to do something and I'm going to be the one to make this change? What was that situation for you?
Yeah, totally. And you put your finger on it. I mean, people are really confused about pet food. It's funny because we know how to feed ourselves, right? We go to the grocery store, we, buy our food and, we're able to figure that out. But people have a lot of trouble with pets. And I think a lot of it does come from, the situation you described where there's just a lot of sources of information. There's obviously the vast internet. There's, influencers in our lives, such as like our vets. Those are, important influencers. And, a breeder, if you get a dog from a breeder, there's so many different, people to listen to, and you sort of need to filter out and, figure things out, your own way. But ultimately our journey was actually started more on like the human food side where, um, I personally, like I said, lifelong animal lover, always, ate meat growing up, but at one point had sort of this aha moment where I realized, I love animals, but I don't really know where, the meat I'm eating is coming from. Like, I don't know anything about the way those animals were raised. And that just sort of set off, I guess, this exploration for me to understand like factory farming and then I think you sort of can't unknow the things that you learn, and that really transformed the way that like we were thinking about meat in our household. Like I became a vegetarian. Isaac became much more sort of conscious of where the meat he was eating came from. And we really just wanted to extend that to our pets, this idea of knowing where ingredients are coming from and really understanding that has a big impact on nutrition as well. And, we went out looking for it and it didn't exist for pets. And, that was really the aha moment. But, I think the other part of it definitely was it sort of started with humanely raised meat, but it like snowballed into this concept of, ethical sourcing, which really encompasses everything. It's, the ingredients, the way they were raised. It's also sustainability and it's also transparency. And I think transparency is such a big part of sort of what you're speaking to, which is, you know, like I think people sort of lost trust in pet food companies and really felt like they didn't know what was going into their pet's bowl. So we've sort of taken on very like radical transparency since day one. You can trace every ingredient in every bag back to the source. We've got, extensive third-party certifications and all that. And that really, did come from sort of this idea that there was a lot of room for improvement, we thought, in the pet food space.
Right. So it's really interesting because I have the great privilege to speak to some other female founders. What I have personally learned is that they really bring a different perspective and another angle that sometimes we don't see in traditionally founded that are often male founded or male funded, solely male funded startups and businesses. And that really is a lot of empathy and strategy, but from a perspective that really is looking to strive for excellence above all. Can you explain how you feel towards this? Because looking to sustainably source, looking to ethically sourcing your product, I mean, that will come with barriers. That's going to make things more challenging. In many ways, it's a lot easier to produce something with less expensive or not as ethically treated, products. So what are those lessons that you learned when you started out as an entrepreneur? And what were those core values that you really had to maintain in order to see yourselves through to where your business is today?
Yeah, I mean, that's honestly like the whole foundation of our business is, striving to raise the bar. And that's our number one core value, like written in ink. And that's really all about this idea that like good enough is never good enough and always striving for better. And, for us in the context of what we were doing, it had never been done before in our industry. So we literally had to like create everything from scratch, everything from our supply chain, getting farms to work with us that, never worked with a pet food company before, didn't want to work with a pet food, they're selling into natural grocers, researching all of the, animal welfare standards and building our own robust program, and then as we progressed and we, continued on our journey, sustainability became an even bigger part for us. And really even just learning from scratch, like what does carbon reduction mean? And what about, packaging waste? Like, 99% of pet food bags end up in landfill. Like, how can we do that differently? And so I think that, in terms of core values, always raising the bar, but it's also viewing obstacles as opportunities. Because like you said, like 1000%, it's like we can't just go out and, buy our chicken from anywhere, or we're not just, buying any packaging. Every single thing that we do is purposeful, and it's harder to do. But I think that ultimately working through those challenges like led us to such a creative, innovative, value-added product and brand for consumers, because that's ultimately what we were always thinking. And I think you do see a lot of brands grow and sort of get watered down in what they're trying to do. But like we, from day one, we had our mission, do some good for animals and the planet. We had our core values. And what I love is we've just doubled down on those like so much as we've grown. And as we've had more resources, we have a 4 or 5 plus me, person impact team. That's all the team does all day is work on our mission and impact programs, because it does take a huge amount of work and rigor and commitment. And so, yeah. And, it's interesting though, because on the one hand, always striving for excellence. On the other hand, I think that trying to be a perfectionist can be sort of counterproductive. And so I really try to foster an environment of doing. Get to 90% and then like get it done. Let's do it. Let's keep pushing forward, and then continual improvement. Because I think that sometimes if we're sort of like itching at that last 10%, we can maybe not do anything, if that makes sense. So, I think it's just ultimately always striving for better, viewing those obstacles as opportunities, constantly being inspired by our customers. That's another one of our core values, to make sure that we're adding value and just getting like SHIT done, pushing things forward and getting it done.
I love that you kind of note that, because when you're striving for excellence, sometimes that perfectionistic paralysis will kick in when you're like, but is it perfect, is it perfect? And I feel like so many high achievers can get stuck in that place where they're not, is it ready, and the emphasis of progress over perfection, even in a very mission-led, high excellence company like Open Foods, I think that's really great to see that. Of course, we're learning along the way. We're continually doing things, and it's the progress that's really making a difference. So talk to me about this, because I love the perspective that you have and the mindset that you hold of, getting SHIT done, and you started this business before having children. Your life has probably changed in many ways. You have an infant, you have 2 other children, you've got puppies and senior dogs. how do you continue to make such an impact for your business when there's clearly so much on the go and you're juggling so many things?
Yeah. So look, I think the first place I would start is team is everything. Like we've just always like lived by that. Like you are nothing without your team, and having, people on the team who are intrinsically motivated, who are autonomous, who have ownership over what they do, and who are always working to add value to the business, who are obsessed with adding value to the business. That's the number one thing. And then, for me, it's been like ruthless delegation, like, and prioritization. Like just like I have to be ruthless with the things I focus on. And I can only focus on the most important things that are going to add the most value. And again, that sort of last 10% of, the tail of the list, I can't get there, and I need to be okay with that. I'm absolutely at peace with that. That's I would say one of the biggest parts is prioritization, really leaning on the team, having an extremely effective team. And then I think it's the way that we raise children here is very isolated, and I think women put a lot of pressure to sort of do it all themselves. And that's so different than other cultures. And I think that I don't know that we have it right here, and so I'm very big on, having a village, and I need a village to be able to do it all. To me, doing it all isn't doing it all yourself. It's like creating a circumstance where you can facilitate doing all of these things. And so for me, I'm really lucky. I have, wonderful caregivers that help me with my children so that I can work during the day. And I have, wonderful parents who are very helpful. My sister, even my nieces who are 12, she's like a little babysitter. So I really think it's about having the right resources. And even in my personal life, I look at it the same way as like, what are the key things to prioritize? For me, it's quality time with my kids, and whatever else I can delegate, I'm going to try and delegate, because I think that's the most value add to all of us as a family.
I love that you speak about a village, because I was recently speaking to another female founder, and that is the biggest I think takeaway that I got from our conversation was that sometimes we don't have the village that we envisioned. And that means, for some of us, that can mean, maybe our parents live far away, or we don't have a relationship where we can call on them, or they're no longer with us.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we just stop there. And, regardless of our situation, regardless of where we are, there are so many options available to us. So whether it is, family or friends, or hiring support or caregivers, I would love to know some of the other areas that you would feel constitute as a village. Sometimes I feel like it's the things that we're saying no to that allows us then to prioritize what it is that we really want to do. So you're saying, I want to prioritize that time with my children. That must mean that there are other things getting done that you are not doing. Can you speak to that a little bit?
For sure. And I think so much of it is like guilt related. I think as moms, I just this, and I'm not going to say I don't have mom guilt, work guilt. Like I think that when you have this many things, and especially at least for me, the stage I'm at with like a young baby, and I did the puppy now because I was like, let's just do it all at the same time. But I think when you're at, that stage, you're never giving your full self and all of your time to any one thing. Like you are going to be divided amongst all these things. And so I do really try to think, in each area of my life and my work, how can I give my best self, and where can I give, what's really going to matter to that area, whether it's, again, I think with kids, it's putting the phone away and playing with them and going out and doing fun stuff, and really giving them that special time. I think with work, it's, again, it's sort of what are those areas, those projects, looking to the future or working on our strategy. Like those are the things where I'm really going to be able to move the needle. And so it's really drilling into those. And absolutely, it's saying no. And there's, I think even with friendships, I think as you get older, I think this happens to a lot of people, you sort of solidify in with, your friendships that are really real and close friendships, and the people that like actually want the best for you and you want the best for them. And I think it's the same thing there, even with sort of socially at least for me, I spend, a lot of time with my sister and my sister's family and my parents and, and like really good and close friends. And those are the things that fill me up too. Cause I think that also like having that, I think that's part of the village is like the support, for you. And I get that from my family and my friends. I have, an amazing mother-in-law. My husband's mother is like a second mother. Like I'm very fortunate to have these people in my life, and they're my village, they're part of the village. And but also they give that support that really gives me the energy to do all this stuff.
So nice. It's so great to see. I'm very fortunate to have family who live where I live. My husband's family, they have children who are our age, and it is a beautiful thing that definitely is not to be taken for granted. But knowing that we can find those things if we don't necessarily have them, within our family space as well. It's so nice to see. I love that you sort of have this mindset that you are continually striving for excellence. You're not going to stop at good enough, whether it's in your home or whether it's in your business. I would just love to know, because you started with Open Farm and creating this business structure that is based on these beautiful core values, really strong mission. How does that mirror in your personal life? I'm sure that there are ways that you choose to parent your children, choose to live your personal life. How has your business kind of mirrored what you're now doing in motherhood and parenting and your relationship with your husband?
That's such a good question. I think I've learned so much that helped me be a parent from business because at least for me, like I just think like leadership wherever you are, like is leadership. And I think there are many parallels being a leader to people in an organization and a leader in your family. And to me, that's what, I think kids really need and what they crave. I don't know where I heard this, but it resonated with me so much. I heard it years ago, and it was like, kids, they don't need like a friend. They don't need a boss. They need a coach. Like your like sort of like relative position to them can be really well described as a coach. And I think, a leader sort of one and the same. And I love that because like to me, raising kids is about, helping them sort of be their best selves, build their confidence, enjoy what they're doing, find what they love, and then creating that bond, just like you would with it. And we talk a lot in our house about being a team. And we, that's something that we really, really encourage with our kids. And and I've seen examples where, there's just a lot of competition among siblings that's really fostered from parents. And I think like, what a shame. Like, what is the why, when you can instead foster this, amazing environment of being a team. And we talk about, my kid, Elle and Logan, those are my two older ones. When Logan wins, Elle wins. When Elle wins, Logan wins. And that way they're always, supporting each other and celebrating each other's successes. And they have, the most like awesome relationship. And I think that is so similar to being in an organization where we're all as a team, we're all working together, we all have the same goals. It's not about being competitive, and we can all win together. So I really love that, and I love that I've sort of taken that away. I think this idea of core values is really important for a home too. I've read this, and I'd like to do this, and I meant to do this, and we'll do it at some point. But like actually writing down your core values and sort of a charter as a family, I think that's a wonderful thing to do. We do that kind of every day verbally, where we're really trying to instill, values, core values, family values. But I think you can, formalize it even more. And it's like so satisfying when you start to hear your kids like repeating stuff back, or you see them making decisions that you're like, you've been listening, your kid goes up to the other kid that's crying and comforts them and says, how can I help you? Like that stuff, I think that just comes from modeling and constantly sort of showing that leadership, and helping them live the family values.
Yeah, absolutely. I had to laugh when you were saying that because recently my 2-year-old said to my oldest, like, Ben, what you have to speak with kindness, Ben. And it's funny because that's something that I'm saying all the time. How can we
Right.
approach these situations with a kind heart and through kindness versus, however we're feeling in the moment. So it is beautiful to see when those things kind of catch on and the whole family is leading with those values. I'd love to know for yourself, like as a leader, being the person who your team comes to, being the person your family is coming to, managing so many different things, where do you go for your personal coaching, or where has this growth mindset and where do you turn when maybe things aren't going your way, or maybe you wake up and you're lack of sleep and the dog's been up and the baby's been up and all of these sorts of things? Like, how do you dig deep and where do you turn when you need that motivation or that support?
Yeah, no, I mean, for sure that's a great question. And I think that's, a lot of times exactly like we don't do that naturally. And it's so important to, and I think comes back to the idea of the village again. And, I'm very, as you probably have noticed, into prioritizing relationships and meaningful relationships. And so for me, it's for sure my husband, Isaac, to start with. Like, we're a team. We've always been in business together, every high and low. And we both have them, and we both have quite a lot of pressure and got stress. And but we're always there, for each other. And like it's like a reflex, whenever whatever it is that I need. And I think for him too, it's sort of, we're going to be texting or hopping on the phone, or at night after we put the kids to bed and we're half exhausted, we're going to be talking about it then. And so definitely starts with my husband. But then I think, I have, again, just some people in my life that are just, again, I think it's just those relationships where you just know that person. Like, there's never been an ounce of anything but support both ways, and respect and love. And, you have maybe a best friend. I have, a best friend also named Jacqueline, who, like, she's just my ride or die, sister, mother-in-law, mother, like, really. And I guess when I say it out loud, I guess I have sort of a group of really wonderful women, in my life who I will always go to. And that's where I, if I need to vent, or I need advice, or I need support, or just to know that they're there. For me, going, like, it's just me, like, going to retail therapy, it does nothing for me, like that sort of thing. It's just those real sort of supportive moments with people that are there, are always there, that help me the most, for sure.
I have a coach who says it truly is who you surround yourself with that makes the biggest impact. And, there's so many things that can be said, even if you compare yourself to, the three people you spend the most time with, right? And that tends to show you, kind of mirrors back to you your own growth and where maybe you need to continually improve. Now, for someone who's listening who might be thinking like this sounds beautiful, like, and it's incredible to be able to start a business that is so making such an impact and is such rapidly growing, like, worldwide, and doing beautiful things, and having a wonderful family with great relationships. What advice do you have for either the aspiring entrepreneur, maybe someone who's like, well, there's no way that I can do all of this and have a family and sort of like the notion of having it all? Like, what advice would you impart on the listener who maybe has that idea, or maybe wants to do something but is a little bit afraid?
Yeah, like, I really have seen this. I feel like your cup is sort of as full as it is. Okay. And what I mean by that is, like, before I had kids, before I had, like, I still felt like I had a lot on my plate. You know what I mean? Like, way back when I just had a job and a dog, it felt like a lot. And I was tired on Friday night at the end of the week, and I felt overwhelmed at times. And I just find it amazing how, like, as you say, you know what, I'm gonna take this on, and oh my God, can I do this? Like, again, Q, I just got a puppy. Just commit me right now. Like, it's not, but you just kind of, as you decide to make those decisions to bring whatever it is into your life, a new business, take that leap, leave your salary behind, which is so scary, you know, that first time your paycheck starts, because you're, you know, really just jumping into having your own business. Like you just, it fits in, and you need to make changes. You need to be proactive. And I think that's sort of the biggest thing that I've been able to do is say, hey, you know, I can't do everything the way that I was before. I used to work till 7 every night. I used to work every weekend in the business. And then I had kids, and it's like, I can't do that. Like, I need to when my, you know, first kid was a baby, I got to get her from my nanny at 5 p.m. Work day is done. And I'm not a night person. I can't work after, you know, she goes to bed. I'm not working on the weekend. I'm taking care of a kid all weekend. It's way more tiring than working, by the way. But like, and then it's like, you have another one, and then it's like, oh, well, I need like a different like system. I need a different approach here. Like, okay, I'm gonna put my bigger one's got to go in daycare, and then got my younger one, you know, and you just kind of figure it out. And again, I do think that's where that ruthless prioritization comes in, where it's like all the things that maybe I was working on from 5 to 7 p.m. like gone. Like, I just don't do those things anymore. And you know, it's fine. But again, and that's where I come back to this concept of perfectionism. That 5 to 7 p.m. work, you're not at your best. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you can do it, great. And in the early days of entrepreneurship, like, you're going to grind it out for sure. And you're going to work hard. And I still work really hard. But just that last 10% of perfectionism, if you're not doing it, you don't need to feel guilty about it. Focus on the impact, focus on what's actually going to make a difference. And I think you just have to keep refining that approach every time, and ultimately have the confidence that you can do it, and just take that first leap. You got to see that paycheck stop someday, and just dive in, and you'll make it work.
One step at a time. There's a great book written by Dr. Benjamin Hardy called Who Not How, and it sort of emphasizes, you know, that as you grow, as you make these changes, it's the who's that are coming into your life to support you. You know, like the things that you were doing as a founder before you had children to build your business. You're saying you've had to loosen the reins to allow other incredible people to take over. You had children, and you know that you need support in many places in order to, you know, care for your children and run your business and manage a household and still have time to spend with your family at the end of the day. So it's really about not needing to do everything yourself and not holding yourself to that pedestal, because I think that's where a lot of people get stuck, is like, well, all of these things need to get done. There's no chance that I'm going to be able to do it all. So I guess it's just not going to happen. And so I love that you're saying there is a village that you can find if you seek it out.
For sure. And I think it can just look so many different ways. And I also recognize that I am fortunate to have, you know, that group of women, and that they live, you know, nearby, and we don't all have that. And, you know, when my parents moved to Toronto from Montreal when we were babies, they talk about it. They had no help. Their parents weren't here. They both worked full time. They talk about my mom broke her full leg. There was a fire in the house, like all this. A nanny left me at the Y once too. It's okay. I survived. But like, you know, all these things that happen, and, you know, they had to just like, they figured it out, and they sort of found their way here, and they set their roots, and they found the tools that could serve as a village. You know, a daycare or a home care near you with a really wonderful person that you trust who runs it, that can be part of your village, right? And I think it's great that we have, you know, now, at least in Ontario, this great, you know, subsidized daycare now, and there's just like a much better ability to get childcare for your children. And so yeah, like, I think it's just, we all find a different way to make that happen.
Yeah. I think what's really coming through for me in this conversation that we're having, Jacqueline, is that overriding mindset and that perspective that you have, that it's going to work out. Like everything it's figure outable. Everything's going to work out in the end. And it's just a matter of moving forward and allowing these supports to find you, and seeking out these supports, knowing that it's all going to work out. Would you say that that's true of how you feel? Or
Yeah, I mean, that's how I am. You know, I talked about every obstacle as an opportunity, like 100%. And, you know, I know, for example, some women who like were like, oh, I have to put my kid in daycare like earlier. Like I'm going back to work and having mixed feelings, and totally understandable. But I always say, you know what? It's so good for your kid. They're going to go, they're going to be social, they're going to like do new things and have a new experience. So it's, I think there's always just another side to things. As moms, we've got these worries of, like, am I doing the right thing? Is this going to be okay? And I'm prioritizing this and not this. And I'm just always like, there's other reasons why that decision is good. And that's the decision you made. And yeah, like focus on the things that are actually going to be good about that, because I'm sure there are some. So yes, that's very much my way. But I just think it's true.
I agree. I think it's true as well. What's going on for you in the future? Like, do you have any big goals? Are there any new puppies coming in? Or like, what are you, when you sit down at the end of the day, or when you just ask yourself, like, where do I see myself moving into the future? What does that look like for you and for your family?
Yeah, well, I mean, Open Farm, I love the business. It's an amazing business, and the idea that, going to work and having an impact, and like all the like the whole mission of the business, and we just have really big goals and big things that we're doing around that, especially, for example, in regenerative agriculture. And I'm so passionate about that. So I am so excited, about all the things that we're going to be working on. And I think for me, over the last 4 years, like, I had 3 kids in 4 years. Like it's been a lot of balancing, right? And I'm done now. I know I'm done, and that feels good. Because I feel great about, our family, but I'm excited to like just dive in like even more to all these exciting things that we're working on, and to push them forward. And then yeah, like it's just such a journey with the kids, and enjoying it, and feeling like on the one hand it's so hard, and on the other hand I'm already nostalgic that even though my baby's like 11 weeks old, I'm like, oh my God, like my kids are growing up, and then so it's like thinking really long term into the work side, and thinking really short term, I think, on the family side of like, okay, in like 3 months, my puppy's going to be like potty training and stop biting everything. And my baby will be sleeping through the night, and we'll be kind of like, hopefully, over a bit of like this hump right now. So I feel like I'm both in that bizarro world of like all in on, longer term projects, and then like focus on just sort of some short term little goals here as a family, and making it all fit together.
Yeah, I know the sleepless nights, they get you, but they don't last forever. So it's like, once you've been through it, it's so beautiful. Before we wrap up, I've really loved our conversation. I love how you are so passionate about everything that you're doing. I would love to just know about your authentic self-care practices. They might look a little different now because, there's a lot more on the go with an infant and a puppy, but before we wrap up, what are you doing for yourself to really prioritize your own needs? And what is one thing that you are now not doing that helps you prioritize your needs?
So I think that like actually what I really love is like one-on-one time with my kids. And I think that's really hard when you have 3 kids and like dogs, and the house is crazy. And so like that's actually, because that's like quiet for me, like being with one child. Like even if I go up and I get my son, someone's watching all the other crazies in the house, and I go up to get my son from his nap, and we just like sit on the chair together, and we take 15 minutes of just like quiet and hanging out. Or take my daughter alone, and we'll walk and get her a hot chocolate and just sit together. She's 4, and chat. Like I just, that like one, and I think it's so great for them too. And I really enjoy, and I think it's a kind of luxury to have like just one-on-one like quiet time with each of my kids. And so yeah, or even just like walking like one dog is like, that is like self-care right now. Just like a nice walk around the block with my husband, the two of us walk, get a coffee if someone's watching the kids. I love that. And just like have time just to like talk. Or tonight he texted me and said like, hey, do you want to go out? Can we get a babysitter? Do you want to go out for dinner? I'm like, yes, let's do that. Let's do that. So I think again, those for me, and again, the theme, like relationships, like that's what fills me up in that quality time. I think what I'm not doing is I'm not doing sort of like definitely like traditional self-care, like I'm not getting pedicures or massages right now. Although like I'll book the odd like Friday with my best friend, like let's do a spa day and book it like 3 months in advance so that it happens. But I'm not like, this just isn't the time in my life where I'm, getting my nails done, and I'm okay with that. I'm really okay with that. And I know that I'll look back on this time and be like, that was crazy. How did I do it? And I won't think about, that fact that I didn't get a massage or didn't get a pedicure, but I'll remember like all the special time with my family. So yeah.
Oh, I love that. It's been so great chatting with you. I can't wait to see what else you come up with. Congratulations on all of your success, your beautiful family, and I hope that we can keep in touch. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Love chatting with you.
What an honor to spend some time with Jacqueline as she manages such a very busy schedule with so much on her plate. And one thing that really stood out to me in our conversation is her ability to cultivate and really, really prioritize the relationships that mean the most to her in her life, whether it be with her spouse, her children, taking a dog for a walk, or leading the teams that she manages with her companies. If you are thinking about something that is important to you that you just don't know how to prioritize, this conversation has just showed me that with the right mindset, with the ability to create a village that works and supports you, and really find the ability to say no to things that aren't going to help you with prioritizing what you need, you can do it too, just like Jacqueline. There are some links in the notes for this podcast episode to learn more about Jacqueline and Open Farms and Canada Pooch, and how you can connect with her and follow along in her beautiful journey. If you like this episode, if you found value from it, I would so appreciate if you could share it with a friend, maybe an aspiring entrepreneur or a mama with lots on her plate. Please rate it and write me a review in Apple Podcasts. And you know what? If you like this one, I would love for you to share it on socials, maybe take a screen capture, post it in your stories on Instagram, and tag me at Andryanna G. That's ANDRYANNAG. We have so many more incredible conversations planned this year. I can't wait to see you for another episode of The Juggle is Real. Take good care.